WCHS-TV 8.
From WCHS-TV 8 Charleston, with bureaus in Paintsville, Parkersburg, Huntington, and Beckley. This is News 8.
Elsewhere in the news, reports of scattered violence continued last week in a coal strike that's now in its 5th month in West Virginia and in Kentucky.
From WCHS-TV 8 Charleston, with bureaus in Paintsville, Parkersburg, Huntington, and Beckley. This is News 8.
The head of the United Mine Workers Union says he will escalate the selective strike against one of the nation's largest coal producers.
From WCHS-TV 8 Charleston, with bureaus in Paintsville, Parkersburg, Huntington, and Beckley. This is News 8 Night Desk.
Meanwhile, things haven't looked so good for some miners, but owners of a southern West Virginia coal mine want striking workers to become more directly involved in negotiations, so they've come up with an idea.
Everybody's saying it must be WCHS.
This is News 8 Weekend Report.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Brad Harvey. Thanks for joining us. It has been a day of digging out, and some progress was made in the daunting task of coaxing the region out of a weather-imposed standstill.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Russ Riesinger.
And I'm Mary Sue Jackson. Thanks for joining us. It is being called the biggest brush fire in our area so far this season. Firefighters have spent most of the day battling a blaze along the Kanawha-Jackson County line.
Several acres have burned and homes threatened, but there's more to this story. Our Matthew Hilk has spent the day on the fire lines and joins us live from Skywatch 8. Matthew, what's the latest?
Well, Russ and Mary Sue, we've just gotten word a few moments ago that the fire is...
This is WCHS-TV 8 Charleston-Huntington.
A cold, wet night for thousands in our area, waterlogged from the flood of '96. Also tonight, a robbery rampage. At least 3 businesses are hit tonight, possibly by the same men. And after a sexual abuse case is closed, teachers in our area wonder how close is too close. Good evening, everyone. I'm Wendy Griffith.
And I'm Matthew Hilk. Russ Riesinger has the night off. It has been more than 10 years since flooding brought this much devastation here. But for many tonight, it's taking everything they've got just to keep dry.
Flooding has forced thousands of West Virginians from their homes tonight, and many others are battling rising water at their...
Now tonight, much of West Virginia is under a state of emergency. Governor Caperton made it official for 16 counties in the central and eastern part of the state. The National Guard has been activated and dozens of emergency shelters are open, mainly in the northern part of the state.
This is WCHS-TV 8 Charleston-Huntington.
Totaling up the... Good evening, I'm Wendy Griffith.
And I'm Matthew Hilk. Russ Riesinger has the night off. So you think it's over? Think again. The flood waters have ebbed, but a tide of trouble is still rolling in.
Thousands of area residents are cleaning up tonight.
TV News. Now, live from the state capitol, you're watching News 8 at 6.
West Virginia's population is holding steady, but its number of prison inmates is growing. The question now, where to put them? Good evening, everyone. I'm Russ Riesinger. Mary Sue has the night off. More on that story in just a moment. But first, some breaking news from the Charleston Police Department tonight. News 8 has learned that Charleston Police Chief Fred Marshall has cancer and will undergo surgery tomorrow. News 8's Matthew Hilk is live at Charleston Police Headquarters. Matthew, the question that everyone wants to know, is Chief Marshall going to be okay?
Well, Russ, everyone here at City Hall tonight is certainly hoping and praying he will. And we do want to tell you that doctors are pretty confident they will be able to remove the entire cancerous section of his colon first thing tomorrow morning. As for Marshall, he wanted to inform officers in his own words, so he addressed them in a videotape during roll call today. Now, a city official says that in that videotape, Marshall said he was diagnosed last week with a cancerous spot on his colon and that doctors believe they caught that in its very early stages. Now,
Now, live from the state capitol, you're watching News 8 at 6.
She was a sweet lady. She never bothered anybody.
But now that older woman is beaten to death in a small-town library. Good evening, everyone. I'm Mary Sue Jackson.
And I'm Russ Riesinger. Thanks for joining us tonight. The crime seems as senseless as it is disturbing. A small-town librarian and Sunday school teacher beaten to death at the public library.
It happened today in Boone County, and police have already made an arrest. News 8's Matthew Hilk was the first reporter on the scene and is live now in our Charleston newsroom.
You're watching News 8 at 6 with Russ Riesinger, Mary Sue Jackson, Chief Meteorologist Tony Manolfi, and Dave Weekly's Sports.
It is one of the most common complaints in rural areas around here, the need for better fire protection, not because of the fire departments, but because of a lack of fire hydrants.
One community was promised those hydrants a long time ago, but still doesn't have them. 8 on Your Side reporter Matthew Hilk is here with the story. Matthew, I guess they got the new water lines, they got the taps, but...
One person dead, and one big question. How could this happen? Good evening, everyone. I'm Amy Schuler. Thanks for joining us tonight. It happened late last night in the Scary area near Route 35 in Putnam County. We can now take a first look from the air at the wreckage of the two trains. This is the scene today after last night's collision between a coal train and a train carrying chemicals that set off an explosion and a fire.
Now, live from the state capitol, you're watching News 8 Night Desk.
I respect this officer. I do not respect you. Go.
A confrontation boils over at the site of a deadly train wreck. Hello again, I'm Russ Riesinger.
And I'm Mary Sue Jackson. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Now, live from the state capitol, you're watching News 8 Night Desk.
There has been a train derailment and possible hazardous material situation on the Kanawha-Putnam County line. Good evening, everyone. I'm Amy Schuler. Thanks for joining us tonight on the Night Desk.
This is a News 8 special report.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Amy Schuler.
This has been a News 8.
Tonight, 2 tankers collided near Ventro. At least 1 person has been reported dead. Several others are injured. News 8 has been live from the scene of that crash since it happened nearly 3 hours ago. And our News 8's Matthew Hilk joins us now live.
Live from the state capitol with Bill Robertson, Deborah Lenz, meteorologist Tony Manolfi, and Mark Martin Sports. You're watching Eyewitness News at 6.
Police arrest an accused sex offender. The meth tip line is ringing off the hook, and a toddler's finger is severed at a daycare. Next.
This is WCHS Eyewitness News at 11. Your news starts now.
I mean, it's really scary to think that there's a flip side of what.
News of an alleged sex offender shocks area residents. Our top story tonight, an accused pedophile is behind bars. Good evening, everyone. I'm Deborah Lenz.
And I'm Rick Lord. Welcome to Eyewitness News. Before we get to that story, we have some breaking news we want to bring you tonight. A Dunbar man has been stabbed following an argument. Police are on the scene on Circle Drive taking statements from witnesses.
Live from the state capitol, Deborah Lenz, Rick Lord, Chief Meteorologist Tony Manolfi, and Mark Martin with sports. You're watching Eyewitness News at 11. This Eyewitness News Start Report is brought to you by Hyundai.
Coming up on Eyewitness News.
Tearful testimony.
What was your purpose of pulling his leg to you?
Stop beating me.
Witnesses to a little boy's death continue to take the stand as a huge upset in the case unfolds.
Yeah, they're good guys. We appreciate them.
As the state of emergency ends in most places in West Virginia, hundreds of National Guard soldiers cut their way into more isolated areas. Plus,
a suspect for a meth lab is caught, but another is on the loose. We could use your help as we open the fugitive files.
I'll let you know when to expect more showers and storms headed our way.
Live from your capital city, this is Eyewitness News.
a mother in tears as she relives the night her son was hit by a car and killed. Good evening, everyone. I'm Deborah Lynn.
I'm Rick Lord. This is Eyewitness News, and we begin with breaking news out of Charleston. A verdict in a high-profile case. It took less than an hour for that jury to return the guilty verdict against Ethan Chick Colbert, but the most serious charges against him had already been dropped. Coming up on Eyewitness News.
A shooting on Charleston's west side.
Today we were dispatched to a series of shots being fired.
Two different crime scenes have police out in full force, where it happened and where they nabbed the suspect. Plus,
major economic news.
Today, without question, is one of my proudest moments.
Where a cracker plant may set up shop and the company that would bring it in. Then.
Happy birthday, Kanawha County. We'll tell you some county trivia and what leaders are doing to celebrate the day.
Another cold night on the way. I'll tell you just how low that mercury is going to be dropping for us.
West Virginia's source for news. Eyewitness News starts right now.
A big announcement for Wood County and the rest of West Virginia. Good evening. I'm Elizabeth Nareka.
I'm Rick Lord. This is Eyewitness News. It's a big story, and we'll get to it in just a moment, so stay with us. But first, we want to get you up to date on a story developing right now in Charleston. A shooting suspect arrested right behind a school. Eyewitness News anchor Callie Card is live on the west side with the latest. Callie?
Coming up on Eyewitness News, watch out for high water.
Once this is gone, we have really nowhere to go.
Neighborhoods all across the area are flooded. One Kanawha County family shows us the damage done to their home. Closed roads.
I didn't know that flooded usually.
Flooding closes down roadways where you need to stay away from. The snow is piling up. Where we're seeing the snowfall and how much is on the way.
Rain showers changing over to snow tonight. I'll let you know how the rest of your weekend is shaping up.
West Virginia's source for news. Eyewitness News starts right now.
High water problems, communities underwater, homes flooded, and slick conditions out there on the roadways. Good evening, I'm Elizabeth Nareka. This is Eyewitness News, and we'll get to those stories in just a moment. But first, we have a breaking news alert to bring you out of Putnam County. A very sad discovery to tell you about tonight. Putnam County detectives tell us they believe they have found the body of missing Scott Depot man Brian Sexton.
West Virginia's source for news. Eyewitness News starts right now.
An Eyewitness News exclusive. Donald Trump firing allegations at Hillary Clinton. What Clinton did that the Republican candidate says is criminal.
The Charleston business closing down, what it's doing for customers, and when the East End shop will close its doors for good.
Technology from the sidelines. How you could be a part of the high school football action this season. But breaking right now, the Amber Alert for Skylar Dunn has been canceled. Just a little more than an hour ago, police found the girl safe, according to several media outlets. And overnight, police say Skylar was taken by Tabitha Dunn, and both were en route to Parkersburg. Well, right now, there is no word on what charges Tabitha Dunn may face in the child's abduction. And good Thursday morning. I'm Dave Benton.
I'm Jennifer McAndrews. Thanks for being with us today.
Eyewitness News this morning starts right now.
Well, more businesses are reopening this week in West Virginia, Ohio, and Kentucky. As shoppers are able to go to their favorite stores, how their shopping experience will be different. And good Monday morning. Thanks for starting your day with us right here on Eyewitness News. We'll get to your forecast in just a second, but first we have Eyewitness News anchor Jennifer McAndrews joining us live from home this morning.
He was an amazing person, and we lost somebody really, really close to us today.
Tragedy in Morgantown and the WVU campus in mourning tonight. What we've just learned about the student death investigation.
And a somber anniversary in Huntington, remembering the worst sports tragedy in U.S. history.
West Virginia's source for news. Eyewitness News starts right now.
And good evening, I'm Elizabeth Noreka.
I'm Stefano DiPietro-Antonio. Welcome to Eyewitness News at 5. Wintry weather on the way. That leads our top 5 at 5 on this Friday night. Let's see what our chief meteorologist Jim Barrick has to say about this.
Yes, well, wintry weather is pretty much already here. We're going
life or death situation. That's a little later here on Eyewitness News, West Virginia's source for news.
You're watching Eyewitness News at 5 with Stefano DiPietro-Antonio, Elizabeth Noreka, and Storm Team meteorologist Jim Barrett. This is Eyewitness News. West Virginia's source for news. Eyewitness News starts right now.
I ain't never beat no child. I never beat no kid, especially my own son.
A stepfather on the stand, the emotional testimony in the murder trial of a couple accused of killing a 3-year-old little boy.
Most of them are just like my family. I know their stories and I know why they're here.
A new record for a local food pantry, why more people than ever are turning to Christ's Kitchen to get a meal. But right now, we continue to follow breaking news out of Kanawha County. A small plane making an emergency landing at Yeager Airport this afternoon.
3 men were on board. We now know what they were doing and where they were heading before mechanical trouble forced that emergency landing.
Eyewitness News starts right now.
And we begin with our eyes on the skies. A storm alert out of Nicholas and Clay counties. Danielle Dindak near the Birch River area where flooding has closed several roads as she's keeping an eye out on what's going on out there.
Right now.
It's just so sad that we've got to the point we are.
Ahead on Eyewitness News, reaction to the arrest of a man accused of trying to trade his dying wife's medicine for sexual favors. But first here tonight, an update to a story that's been blowing up social media since we aired it first on Eyewitness News. The family of Frida Gilmore, the woman at the center of a use of force investigation where 2 Charleston police officers were cleared.
Force for news. Eyewitness News starts right now.
Very sad that it takes something like that to wake somebody up.
Coming up on Eyewitness News, 3 fatal pedestrian accidents in 1 week. Hear one officer's message this evening. And a very good evening to you. I'm Dan Maddox. This is Eyewitness News at 11 o'clock. And those fatal accidents are...
Eyewitness News this morning starts right now.
COVID-19 hospitalizations in the Mountain State continue to surge. What the governor says you can do to help. An update to the Kentucky governor's red zone reduction recommendations. Find out how he's taking it a step further. And good Thursday morning. Thanks for starting your day with all of us here on Eyewitness News.
Eyewitness News at noon starts right now.
Jobless numbers out this morning. What experts are saying about the latest trends in unemployment claims. And local law enforcement officers sharing their game plan for Halloween as thousands of trick-or-treaters plan to head out this weekend.
Eyewitness News at 5 starts right now.
5, and then I was hired just a couple days later. College students stepping up to help with increasing teacher shortages, how they're filling in much-needed positions during the pandemic.
And businesses getting a hand while dealing with the loss of customers. How sports betting is bringing money to West Virginia's economy.
Tonight on Eyewitness News, a child stuck by a needle in Charleston. We look into where that might have come from and what's being done to protect other kids in the community.
A short-term fix for a teacher shortage. Coming up, how some counties are using a new state plan to shore up their staffs.
Eyewitness News at 6 starts right now.
And we begin with that story out of Charleston where a 3-year-old boy had to be taken to the hospital this morning after getting stuck with a dirty needle on the East End.
Area hospitals preparing for another surge of COVID cases.
Tighten up. We just got to tighten up even more.
A warning about the coronavirus and hospitalizations as cold weather approaches.
Eyewitness News at 11 starts right now.
And the sixth hurricane of the season made landfall about 6 hours ago down in Louisiana coastline. So it's been over land now for 6 hours. It is still a hurricane as of 11 o'clock.
It's Super Sunday, and we've got the highlights on the Night Desk.